This is a fairly common mistake. You don't have to make it. And maybe a bunch of you have not made it, even though you've got a portfolio of properties. I made them. I know of lots of other people make them. It happens. We learn from it. We move on. Good morning. So what we're going to do here today is we're going to talk about the money aspect of these rent-own deals. I'm going to give you 3 examples this morning of how I run the numbers on a deal, the sort of profit you can expect from these deals. So I'm going to share about a couple of different stories and give some numbers. So I'm going to give you 3 examples. The first one is one of my own properties, probably from about 10 years ago. And I think it's important to talk about that one, even though it's a little bit older, in the sense that there's some important lessons to be learned from that. The second one that I will review is a no money down sandwich lease deal, right? Where I've got an investor who purchased the property for me. I come in with my contracts, I control the deal, and then I find a tenant buyer, a rent-owned tenant buyer. And so that's called a sandwich lease. I'm in the middle, the goodness in the middle. And so I want to show you the numbers kind of all the way through. And those numbers will probably be the most detailed. The third one will be one from the most current one that's still a live deal, right? So it's showing you the projected numbers on that. The first one that I want to talk about is one of my own deals. It's a property near our university here in Winnipeg. Yeah, well, one of them, University of Manitoba. And I purchased this with my own money, with my own down payment. And fast forward 8 years. And this property was serving me well, but I was making several rookie investor mistakes. One was I was bringing people into this as a regular buy, rent, and hold tenancy. And I had some good tenants and I had some bad tenants over those approximately 8 years. So one of the things that I wasn't doing is I wasn't saving a part of the rent each month for repairs, maintenance, as well as vacancy fees, right? So you often hear people talk about how high their cash flow is on their property. Ask them, does that cash flow include money that you're setting aside for repairs and maintenance and vacancy? Usually 5% for repairs and 5% for vacancy costs. Now, if you're on a bigger unit, you also want to be putting aside for capital expenses, bigger long-term expenses like the roof and things like that. So I wasn't saving that money aside. I was using the cash flow for my daily habits or, travel, all that sort of stuff. I love eating out. So that was problem number 1. Problem number 2 was I had purchased some other properties and had leveraged this property of mine. And so I over leveraged the property, meaning that I didn't over leverage it, but very little equity in the property. So I couldn't leverage anymore, which that's fine. But my expenses were higher because I had, 3 mortgages on the house. I'm not proud of this, but I had 3 mortgages on it. So introduce a tenant who doesn't care for the property that well, not the worst tenant, but they missed a couple months rent. The furnace fan goes. There's a couple other expenses that I didn't have money set aside for. And now you've got no rent coming in. And if you're lucky, you can get them out quickly. If you're not lucky, that can take months. That's a different story that I can tell you on a couple different properties. So now I'm with this property where finally the tenant moved out. I'm without a couple months rent. I've got repairs. Now it's vacant. It doesn't show well. And, how do you fill a property that doesn't show well, right? It's not a great position to be in. So I was what you'd call underwater on this property. I couldn't keep up with my mortgage payments now because I had 3 mortgage payments. And, I was starting to get a little bit behind on my taxes, which isn't good. My insurance, I was fine, but I had no revenue coming in. So anyways, this is a fairly common mistake. You don't have to make it. And maybe a bunch of you have not made it, even though you've got a portfolio of properties. I made them. I know of lots of other people make them. It happens. We learn from it. We move on. What are my options now with this property? It's not cash flowing. It needs some repair. Okay, I could try to find another tenant and just fill it, heartbeat and a pulse, and they got some cash and they say, yeah, we're good. Here's the first 2 months rent. Ooh, that sounds exciting. And this is a common thing. This is what creates tired and frustrated landlords. So I could fill it with that individual or that family. They pay me cash, which is always a bit of a warning sign. If they're paying you cash 2 months or 3 months up front, you got to dig deep and find out what's going on. So I could go that route, but then probably what's going to happen is I'm going to be right back in the same spot in a month or two once their rent runs out that they paid me. And I've seen this even happen after 1 month. They just don't pay rent. So that's an option I could do on this. The second option is, well, I could clean it up and put it on the open market for sale. Well, depending on the time of year, depending on the cycle of the market, even in the best market, it's mediocre at best to go this route, because what happens is you'll get lowball offers because they see it's a distressed property. And, I had these mortgages to pay off. So that really wasn't an option for me. Now, option 3, and this is what I ended up doing, was I turned it into a rent to own. And so I cleaned it up, my own elbow grease, painted it, a couple other things. Then I found a rent to own client who put down $5,000. So they gave me $5,000. And I don't have a spreadsheet on this one. So be patient. I will have spreadsheets on the next deal. So they put down $5,000 and they are paying a total of, I believe it was $1,500 a month. Now, my nut to cover on this property was $1,300 a month, but that was with, vacancy costs and repairs. Well, with this, it fixes that because I made the tenant responsible for the repairs up to a certain amount. I think it was $1,000. Okay, so great. I got a $5,000 influx of cash. I owned the property. And so that $5,000 acted as my vacancy, or if they trash the property on the way out. It's not a lot of money, but it definitely does help to have that reserve sitting there. So, my cost on this was, like I said, $1,300 a month. I think I owed $200K on it. Okay, so on this is the property here. So this is my option contract with the tenant. So I had a lease agreement for $1,100, and then a separate contract, like I've shared before, for the option contract. And so they agreed to pay $266 in 3 years and 36 months. Okay, I owed $200 on it. They put down $5,000 here, and they also agreed to pay $400 a month on that. So this is the actual agreement that I used with this client. So long story short, I solved my problem. I had enough cash flow to now cover my monthly expenses on my 3 mortgages. And I had a future sale date at an increased property. Like I said, I owed about $200 on it. And they were responsible for repairs. So that was my first property that I did on my own. Now, the only reason why I did that on this property was because I was underwater, like I had said. And this was a way to problem solve it. So really, I was a tired and frustrated landlord. And I came in and I solved my own problem, right? There's many tired and frustrated landlords that will just do a fire sale, or some will even let them go into bankruptcy or foreclosure, any number of reasons, or they'll just sell it on the market for a loss. I didn't want to do those things. And so this is how I problem solved